What up, people of the internet? Happy Thursday, and welcome into the latest edition of The Sweat, where we give you the latest news and analysis around the world of fantasy. Well, it's not us. We don't do that. Myself, Tyler Sullivan, co-host Adam Kaufman, we're just the guys kind of running the show while we lay it up to our experts for the next hour or so. And let's not waste any time. We'll jump right into it. We'll bring them on in. DK Lives, Reed Fowler, Julian Edlow, along with Nolan Kelly of Awesemo.com. Guys, tonight we have a tradition like no other in the NFL. Jaguars, Titans, Thursday Night Football.
Get excited.
It's just the granddaddy of them all, as they say. All right, let's go through some of the best options for tonight's showdown here. How about that?
All right, let's take a look. Leonard Fournette, he's going to start us off. Not one of you, but Fournette, you know, the running back. He's been a stud since coming back from injury and comes in tonight well rested as well after being suspended for Week 13. Sorry, TJ Yeldon, your chance just not the same. Lenny's going to cost you 18 grand as your captain, 12,000 to roster otherwise. So, Reed, is he a must-play? Do you drop that extra 6 grand to make him a captain?
Yeah, I think he has to be a must-play here. Who are you going to trust in this, like Julia or like Tyler was saying, in this tradition, like unlike any other? Like, this is one of those things where you probably better off watching like Harry Potter marathons and
nice
Freeform or something, right? I mean, no one's going to be watching this game, but if you are playing this showdown, yeah, I mean, Leonard Fournette, I never like to pay up at my captain spot, but really, there is no other safe option. Look, 31 snaps this guy got against Buffalo before he went out and got suspended. 21 total touches. And so the Jags aren't afraid to use this guy. Obviously, he has fresh legs. We're missing essentially this entire season so far, whether he be injured or suspended. You want to get contrarian. Corey Davis is someone I'm looking at. Like, I know he's going up against Jalen Ramsey, but Jalen Ramsey has given up a touchdown on these go routes. Corey Davis has scored 2 touchdowns on go routes. So that's sort of, if you want to play contrarian, he'd be the one guy, but it's Leonard Fournette for me.
Nolan, same for you. Is Fournette a must-play?
Yeah, 100% agreed with Reed here. It's not like the greatest play in the world, obviously, but it's just that there's not a lot of other options on this slate. Also, thank God for DK for games like this tonight. Otherwise, they'd be just unwatchable. So, yeah, shout out to you guys. But, I mean, there's a lot of conflicting narratives here because Fournette's going to be the most owned player. He's really the only player outside of maybe Mariota that's worth paying up for. The Jags O-line is banged up. Norwell's out. Robinson's out. Linder's out. But I just don't see how you can get away from having him in your captain spot. For Awesemo.com, we have him as only one of 2 players with an A grade tonight. So I think in a vacuum, he's the best play. And the only reason to fade him would be if the ownership is too high and you want to go contrarian.
Always a little more interesting when there's stake in the game, Julian. Do me a favor, disagree with these guys a little bit because I just can't handle everyone being unanimous with Reed.
I mean, I'll disagree as much as I can. I guess the way that you would take down a GPP on this slate would be to fade Leonard Fournette and kind of build your lineup around both passing games and go with both Cody Kessler and Marcus Mariota. We've seen Fournette get banged up all season. Maybe he leaves the game with that hamstring injury, as he's done twice already. And these teams air it out a little bit more than we think they're going to, and Kessler and Mariota wind up giving you a good shot in a tournament. But if you're looking to play it safe, Fournette's going to be so highly owned. I do think that he is a must-play on this slate. He's almost like a free space because there's nobody else to spend up on. You have to spend your salary somewhere. You can even roster him with Mariota. So he's kind of just like the free points. We know he's going to get his 20-plus touches unless he gets hurt or something along those lines. So if you're looking to play it safe, I think you have to have Fournette in your lineup. He's got 22-plus DraftKings points in all 3 of his games since coming back from that hamstring injury.
All right, well, speaking of Mariota there, he is in kind of a curious situation here tonight. I mean, he's been great his past 2 games. Back-to-back contests where 20 or more DK points. That's pretty good, I would say.
Sure, well, especially for Mariota.
Yeah, exactly. But last time he faced the Jaguars, way back in Week 3, he had just 9 points. So, Julian, are we going to buy into the recent performances or the previous history against the Jags D?
A little bit of both. I do think Mariota has been playing better of late. That game was way back in Week 3 when we had the 9-6 Tennessee win over Jacksonville.
Who could forget?
But he's also keeps dealing with these injuries on his throwing arm, elbow, hand, wherever it may be, that makes him pretty tough to trust. So kind of like the cases with Fournette, I would say Fournette's definitely much more of a sure thing. But without so many places to spend salary, it's really tough to make lineups that don't have Mariota in them. So I do think Mariota is a fine play. He has struggled in this matchup. It's really just where else you're going to spend. So if you're trying to roster Leonard Fournette and fade Mariota, you're going to have a kind of a tough time. You're going to get all the rest of the good plays on the slate in that kind of lineup build. But Mariota's a guy that you really just have to build your lineup based on game script. If you're going to go with him, you want to stack him with the other passing options on Tennessee. If you're going to go against him, I would say you don't want to take Corey Davis or Jonnu Smith or anybody like that.
Okay, fair enough. Nolan, how do you feel about Mariota tonight?
Yeah, I like Mariota as well. I mentioned earlier we have him as an A grade tonight. Jacksonville has given up the NFL worst 321 rushing yards to quarterbacks this year and 4 touchdowns. So that to me is a little bit intriguing. I know Mariota had a pretty underwhelming game against them earlier on in the season. He was 10 of 18 or something for 180 yards. I don't know. It wasn't very good. But he did have 50 yards rushing in that game. So that's where I'm looking tonight, just in terms of he's probably going to give you a decent floor anyways. But this is a tough matchup. Jacksonville's 10th has allowed the 10th least points to quarterbacks. They're 5th in pass DVOA. So I certainly understand not playing him. I just think just what we've been saying all along, there's just not a lot of options of where to go in this slate.
Yeah, that's basically where it is. It's a tough game to really, kind of hammer down into. But Reed, where do you stand on Mariota tonight?
Yeah, like Nolan was saying, I think what you like about Mariota is that his floor when he rushes, right? I think that's what he has to do in this game. We don't see him. Look, he's been throwing the ball 20 or so times for the last three matches, and that's what we're alluding to, right? That he's done well over the past few, and his offensive line is obviously protecting him where he's not going down as much. And so he has to run. He has to run in this matchup. We've seen him do well, obviously, in the past and against the Jaguars. Like Nolan was mentioning, you can run against these guys. So I got him around 7 attempts, and if he can get around 50, 60 yards and find the end zone, which I think he does in this matchup, I think, to Julian's point at the beginning, I think he does bring back value if you want to be contrarian in that captain's pick. He's not going to wow you. He's not going to throw 25-plus attempts. I don't think that they need to in this matchup. And Tennessee always plays Jacksonville tough. So I think Mariota, with what we can expect, is a guy to get us that safe floor with his rushing ability.
Marcus, mediocre, Mariota.
Not Super Mario? No, we're not going to go with that one? Okay.
Not this guy. Not ever again, if ever before.
Yeah.
All right. Nolan, take me through this here. Look, it's a fact, Reed. You're just going to have to accept it. He's not very good. Nolan, something that could be pretty popular tonight, though, is playing both defenses. Do you buy into that strategy for the showdown?
Yeah, that's an interesting question, actually. I like that a lot. See, I'm not actually buying into it based on the pricing points of these defenses. They're both really expensive on this slate, and I think I'd rather go elsewhere. I also think that a lot of people are going to be building that way. A lot of people are going to be opting for defenses given the 37.5 point total tonight. And so that kind of allows me, if I fade the defenses, that allows me to get more offensive players, and maybe this game script changes. Maybe it's a little more offensive than we expect as well. Tennessee, 29th in takeaways. Jacksonville, 21st in takeaways. Tennessee doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and Jacksonville has turned the ball over a lot, but a lot of that was Bortles picks. Kessler's a little bit safer, so I like the chances of there not being that many turnovers in this game, so that's why I'm going to be fading the defenses tonight.
Reed, what about you? Fade, play?
Yeah, I want to be fading the Jacksonville defense. Like, I know they put up a goose egg, or Indy put up a goose egg against them, and they haven't been playing that well in the past, right? We always talked about Jacksonville's defense sort of getting the bump from last year, earlier this season. Guys like Jalen Ramsey, AJ Bouye has been banged up. They haven't been getting to the quarterback like they used to. So if I am playing, Nolan brings up a good point. If I am playing a defense, though, Tennessee is the one that I want. I always like playing the home defenses in this Thursday night spot. They are expensive. Look, against that Jacksonville D-line, against Cody Kessler, I don't think Kessler is the sort of second coming to this team. I think he is a backup quarterback for a reason. So if I am playing a defense, it's going to be Tennessee, but you don't have to.
Julian, how are you going to play this one out? Two defenses. Play one, play both,
yeah,
play neither?
I mean, I saw the question in the show script, and I was like, wow, that kind of makes sense. And then you go and you look at the slate and see the salaries, and, just as we were talking about a little bit earlier in the segment, they're just too expensive for defenses on a showdown slate. At the same time, we've been talking about the limited offensive options. So if I am picking one, I do agree with Reed here. I'll take the home defense going against the worst offense. So Tennessee is the defense that I would roster if I'm taking one. But given the price points here, I don't think you have to roster either. Both these teams have gotten the narrative of having really good defenses. I think both teams are actually just worse on offense than they are good at defense, if that makes sense. So you can capitalize on a little bit here, but I really think it's going to be more poor offense than the defense is making plays in this game.
Well, let's just jump on that overall point there. I mean, obviously, you do have to find that diamond in the rough, those value plays there, but there really does seem to be some chalk plays with Leonard Fournette, you know, Marcus Mariota, maybe those defenses. So, Julian, where is that value tonight?
Yeah, I think at tight end for the Tennessee Titans with Jonnu Smith, you can find some decent value. He's picked up over his last 5 or 6 games. He's had, 14.3 DraftKings points against the Texans, 10.4 DraftKings points against the Colts, 13.5 against the Patriots, 11.5 against the Cowboys. So he's put together some solid games. He's at $5,000, which on a showdown with limited offense is a decent value. Jacksonville also ranks in the bottom third of the league in terms of DraftKings points allowed to the tight end position this season. So I think Jonnu Smith is probably the best spot to target value on this slate, and he's cheaper than the defenses.
Yeah, I like that one. He feels like he has a nose for the end zone these last few weeks, too. It's always good to hit pay dirt. All right, Nolan, who do you like tonight?
Oh, man, remember when everyone was all hyped up on Keelan Cole at the beginning of their season-long leagues? It's been a rough go for him.
All too well, my friend.
Yeah? Me too. But DJ Chark is out. He was out last week. Cole saw 37 offensive snaps. He ran 26 routes. He didn't get a lot of production last week, but he's got a really nice matchup, probably a primary matchup against Malcolm Butler, who's been one of the worst corners in the league. His struggles are well documented. 2.17 yards per reception, 73% completion rate allowed, and 0.49 fantasy points per route run. So Cole's cheap. He's 2,000. Fits into lineups well. He's going to be the third wide receiver on this Jags team, but I don't think the difference between the top two and him is all that much to warrant such a huge price discrepancy.
All right, Reed, give me that value play tonight.
Yeah, for me, it's going to be Taywan Taylor, Tennessee. Like, he's a little bit more expensive. It's because of that 100-yard game last week. But he's been out. He's been injured for quite some time. So with that narrative, right, you might get some salary relief with him, or excuse me, some fresh legs because he has been playing. Look, 13 routes run against A.J. Bouye. Last time he got 5 targets, 4 receptions, 30 yards. If he finds the end zone, and he has to, right? Tennessee in this matchup, I think they have to go to their speedy backs or speedy receivers because you have to against this defense. If not Jonnu Smith, I like that call by Julian. It's going to be Taywan Taylor.
You guys are so chock full of such great information. We have to move quickly through slate-approved picks. Julian, we're going to start with you. Number 1 absolute must-play for the night.
Yeah, I'm just going to be a square and take Leonard Fournette. We can pretty much guarantee he's going to get 20 touches, and I don't know if we know anybody else on this slate is going to get 10 touches.
Reed.
2 squares, make it Leonard Fournette.
Nolan, 3rd square.
Ryan Suckup. No. Leonard Fournette.
like
Alanis Fournette. Little shout out to Pat Mayo there. Yeah, basically, I'm just good. I think you got to go with the chalk here. Tennessee's given up 450 yards in the last 3 games to running backs. Henry and Lewis are possibly emerging in a little bit of a timeshare there. So give me the 1 running back guaranteed touches tonight.
Yeah, it seems like an easy one right there.
A lot of people around this office like to quote Mayo's nicknames, that's for sure.
That's good there. All right, guys, sit tight. We'll hear from Pat Mayo in a little bit. We'll hear from you guys a little bit later, too. We'll dive into the weekend slate in the NFL. Next up, we'll do some picking and some rolling around the association with our NBA experts. But first, our own Brendan Glasheen kicks things off with the latest on Lakers youngster Brandon Ingram.
How we doing? Brendan Glasheen here with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Lakers got their 4th win in a row Wednesday night. LA beat the Spurs 121-113 at Staples Center. But the story, Brandon Ingram left midway through the first quarter after getting hurt while LaMarcus Aldridge committed a flagrant foul against him. It's an ankle issue for Ingram, another injury just 3 years into the association. Head coach Luke Walton said, quote, "They got him pretty good," end quote. That's what Ingram told the coach. Walton also said he plans to stagger LeBron James and Lonzo Ball's minutes, so there's always a steady ball handler on the court. That's if Ingram is out. This just reeks of even more LeBron ISO ball. Dribble, 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 top of the key, make a play, kick it out. That's okay for now. Magic Johnson said he doesn't want Cleveland all over again for James. Lakers have lacked secondary scoring with healthy bodies, so an Ingram absence certainly doesn't help the cause. Lake Show draws the Spurs again on Friday in San Antonio. 6 of the team's next 7 are on the road. We'll see how the Lakers handle this stretch.
You know, pretty insane night for Brandon Ingram's teammate last night, LeBron James.
Yeah, I've heard of him.
Catch that, 42 points, 20 in the 4th quarter. that's pretty good.
Dear Greg Popovich, he was asked what makes it so tough to guard him. He said, "You ever seen LeBron James play basketball?
He's pretty good at that stuff,
LeBron James.
I think he has a future there. All right. So let's see if we can find that next stud to drop performance like that. To do that, we bring in our NBA experts, Alex Barutha of RotoWire and Chris Spagnuolo of Awesemo.com. This should be a good one tonight, boys.
All right, guys, welcome in. Let's get to our NBA pick and roll, where you will give us guys 2 options from tonight. We'll give you a couple anyway. You make the call as to who is better. Highest price guy on the slate tonight, reigning MVP James Harden. He's 10,800. He's very good when he feels like it. He's playing the Jazz. Right below him, Damian Lillard, 10 grand, 100, so $700 difference against the Suns. Is there a clear choice here, Chris?
I don't think there's a clear choice. Honestly, I think both these guys go off tonight. You have Harden on one side. He's struggled versus the Jazz in the past, but the Jazz are struggling with the NBA rule changes this year, which I think has been a big part of their success versus Harden. You can't get those hands on him like you used to. You can't stroke his luscious beard like they used to be able to limit his approach. So I think he's in a good spot tonight, but it's hard to pass up a spot with CJ McCollum out for Damian Lillard. He's averaging 1.6 fantasy points per minute this year without McCollum. It's a limited sample size, but you just know he's going to soak up that usage. He's going to be shooting more than anybody else. And this matchup is one that he should eat at just pretty much every possible way he wants. So I like both guys. Play them both if he can somehow, but I would go Lillard if I had to.
Cute pup there. Looks comfy on the couch. Barutha, what do you say?
I would also go Lillard if I had to choose. We haven't really seen much. We haven't really seen how the Trailblazers operate without CJ McCollum. I think he only missed 1 game last year, hasn't missed a game so far this season, so we don't know exactly how things are going to shake out. But I'm pretty sure Damian Lillard is going to have the ball in his hands a lot, maybe more than usual. And so I think in this opportunity, they're going to lean on him much more than the Rockets are going to lean on Harden because they have Chris Paul also. So if I had to choose one, I would go Lillard here.
All right, well, let's stick with the point guards. Here we got Kyrie Irving, the Celtics, taking on the Knicks. You could go with him at $9K or save some dough and roster Chris Paul at $7,700. So, Alex, you pocketing the money? You going with Paul? Or are you going to spend up for Uncle Drew here?
I'm going to try to save a little money and go with Chris Paul. I mean, in a cash setting, maybe Kyrie Irving has a higher floor. It seems that way. But if Donovan Mitchell, is locked in and guarding James Harden, Chris Paul may have to do some more work against Ricky Rubio. And we know both these guys have an upside of 50, 60 fantasy points. So when you're talking about tournaments, I think I would rather go with Chris Paul.
All right, Spags, who do we like?
I think there's some risk with Kyrie tonight just because I do think the Celtics are going to remember that loss they had versus the Knicks a couple weeks ago. You could come out a little more motivated and just blow them off the court fast. But I'm going to take Kyrie anyway. I know there's a discount for Chris Paul. We have him as an A value on Awesemo.com today. But he's just not playing that well this year, and the usage is down as well. I think Paul can get there with the peripherals, get a few more assists tonight, a few more rebounds if Capella and Rudy Gobert just kind of box each other out. But I would go Kyrie. I think his usage is going to be there in a way that a lot of the other Celtics aren't. And you like big game Kyrie. It's a big spot for him, national TV. He wants people to see it. Uncle Drew, got to promote it again. It's probably coming on DVD soon.
Yeah, you get the Uncle Drew 2 or something, untuck Kyrie probably tonight. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, whatever.
Could be pretty interesting.
I mean, he's going to be a little while before he looks the part of Uncle Drew
That's
for real.
true.
But still, he'll probably be able to ball. He's got the handle. Let's stay with the green while we're at it, Chris. Jason Tatum, he's the highest priced forward on the slate, $7,100. To me, that's maybe a little bit crazy, but nevertheless, you like him tonight, or would you go with Trevor Ariza, $1,500 down at $5,600 against Portland?
So, yeah, for those reasons, there's too many mouths to feed on the Celtics right now. You have Jaylen Brown returning to the lineup. You have Marcus Smart in a sort of emotional day. I think it's his mom's birthday today, his mom who had a tragic battle with cancer. So, you don't know how he's going to come out motivated. You have a lot of guys on that Celtics side. Gordon Hayward coming off the big game, trying to dunk on Marcus Smart all over the court in practice. It's just kind of a mess in terms of usage for those peripheral guys. Whereas Trevor Ariza's got to shoot. He had that 27% usage rate in that first game without Booker and TJ Warren in the lineup. I think they need his veteran expertise to stay in this game versus Portland. So I'll go Ariza, but it kind of hurts.
Alex, which way are you leaning?
I'm going to lean the same way. I'd go Ariza here. Ariza gets a bump of 8 DraftKings points whenever TJ Warren's been sidelined. And so in those games, Ariza's averaged about 36 DraftKings points. And when you're talking about $5,600, that's a steal compared to Tatum. Like we mentioned before, there's a lot of usage to go around in the Celtics. I just don't feel as good about it. In my view, they have about the same. They have the equal shots of getting about 35 fantasy points. So I'm going to I'll take the savings all day on that.
Yeah, story of the season there for the C's. Just too many mouths to feed, especially
one ball.
Hurt you in DFS. All right, guys, you know what time it is. Slate approved. Spags, drop the mic with your top play tonight.
It's got to be Dame Lillard. Again, we talked about it. Both Alex and I are in agreement there. So two great minds coming together in support of Damian Lillard. A really brave take when there's no CJ McCollum. Just too much usage to go around. I like everything I see. And again, the Suns matchup is just one where you can crush. So I'll go Lillard.
All right, Alex?
I'm going to lean pretty much the same way with Lillard. I will say, though, I do really like Jusuf Nurkic because he's going to be the clear second option on this Portland team now that CJ McCollum is out this game. So if you're looking to maybe do, try to save some money at center other than going for, Rudy Gobert or Clint Capella, I think Nurkic also makes for a good play here.
All right, guys, you're delightful. We'll chase fade with you coming up in a little bit. Next, though, NBA, or rather NFL experts, they're coming back with us, and I'll go through some of the latest headlines from today. There's a lot to cover. First, though, our own Pat Mayo. We talked about him earlier. He's going to take a look at the crop of tight ends for Week 14.
If we go to the top, you got Travis Kelce, $6,700. You got Zach Ertz. You got Eric Ebron. You got George Kittle. Those are your big four. Do you have a preference here? Because Chalk Ebron has yet to be a letdown this season.
Yeah, it's insane. This is just 16 targets for him last week. Didn't even find the end zone. He was still there. Travis Kelce, it's hard to not go there right at the top just because, you transition it over to wide receiver and he's priced, way less than someone like DeAndre Hopkins. He's in the T.Y. Hilton bucket. This guy, is going to be involved. We saw it last week. The ownership, I think, funnels to him if people have the money to pay up. Makes me kind of look to Kittle and Ebron a little more, but all in all, if I can just take any of them, I'm taking Travis Kelce.
Games without Sammy Watkins this season, targets for Travis Kelce, 13, 15, and 10.
Yeah, that's good. It's like, it's hard to, obviously he gets red zone looks, catches touchdowns. If he's getting that kind of targets, it's tough to say, you know what, I'm going to try to be, this doesn't feel like the spot to be overly sneaky.
Is there any pay down tight end that you like? If you like Baker, would you go back to Njoku?
I have no problem with him. It's tough with him because we've seen some floor games. We saw a ceiling game here and there. He's got to find the end zone probably. He's a little all over the map. I wish he was a little cheaper, to be honest, but you could definitely do worse. There's not that much down there.
So the guys that are down there, Driscoll just throws the CJ Uzma every third drop back and he catches like 10% of them, but he'll get volume. If nothing else, he's at 3,500. Brate is 3,500 too. That's expected to be a high scoring game, but Adam Humphries keeps stealing all of his touchdowns. Then you have Ian Thomas at 2,700 taking over for the injured Greg Olsen who was put on IR. Then Matt Lacoste, $2,700. Like, I don't hate going back to that well.
No, I mean, we talked about that. 2,700, you're just getting he's one of the only guys available down there who can produce. I know I'm not allowed to bring this guy up on the show.
How dare you? Don't even do it.
4,400, I mean, man, Jimmy Graham, I'm just saying.
Oh, I thought you were going to say Jared Cook.
Oh, no. I know better than to do that, but I thought Jimmy Graham was also somewhat blacklisted.
No, I mean, he pulled a big Jimmy Graham last week. 8 catches, 50 yards. Oh, boy. That was his best game of the year.
I know. It felt like best game of the decade. The guy, honestly, we've mentioned a couple people, but Austin Hooper's sitting there, 4,300. Other side of that game.
He kind of just gets it done every week, doesn't he?
He really does. He was the one. I didn't have any bright spots in the Atlanta thing. He was the one guy, though. He found the end zone last week. He just does his thing. The targets fluctuate, but at the same time, one of the more reliable guys out of the non-elite, targets.
All right, back here on The Sweat and jumping back into our NFL conversation here. Talking Week 14, first week of the fantasy playoffs for most standard leagues. So very important times in the world of fantasy there. Maybe not for you, but for most. All right, we welcome back our DK Lives, Reed Fowler and Julian Edlow, along with Nolan Kelly of Awesemo.com. Really, horrible news coming out of the NFL for the Redskins. and Alex Smith's career looks like it's going to be in serious doubt, suffering from an infection in that broken leg, obviously, remember a few weeks ago there, so certainly thinking about him. But his team now will go with Mark Sanchez as the starter this weekend.
Yes, we're thinking about their fans, too.
Yeah, oh boy. Guys, I don't even think he knows what the cafeteria is at the Redskins facility, so do we even trust any of these Washington Redskins weapons in Week 14, Reed?
Yeah, I mean, there's one. Adrian Peterson is one of these guys at 4,800 that I'm interested in. He's averaging 14 attempts over this season, and you look at Washington, they have the second best power run rate, meaning they can get past when it's 3rd down and 2, 4th and 2, whatever have you. They can get those first downs and keep that ball moving. They're going to have to, right? If they don't trust Sanchez with more than 15 to 20 plays in that playbook, how do you trust him with a little bit more than that, right? I just don't think that you go through Sanchez in this game. The Giants giving about 130 yards over the last 3 games, to opposing running backs. And I think it's going to be an Adrian Peterson game at 4,800. I think you can do a lot worse. So he'd be the one guy that I would trust if anyone on that team.
All right, Julian, feel the same way? You're going with one of Sanchez's receivers there.
Yeah, no thanks. This is a full fade for me. Mark Sanchez, I expect to have a terrible game, and I expect everything around him in that offense to have a terrible game. You look at Adrian Peterson, you see 98 yards and a touchdown against the Eagles. He caught that defense off guard, ripped off one 90-yard touchdown run. The rest of the game, he had 8 carries for 8 yards. That is more of what I expect to see in this Mark Sanchez offense, with defenses loading the box against Adrian Peterson because they know that's the only way they can be beat, and let Mark Sanchez try and throw to a cast of terrible receivers and try and find another way to win. So give me the Giants defense and nothing else.
Nolan, you buy in on that too?
Yeah, that's a good move. I like that, taking the Giants D. I mean, it's not often we get to take a quarterback for $4K, right? What does he have to do to pay off that? 200 yards and 2 touchdowns? Problem is for GPPs, you need more upside than that, and I don't think Sanchez has it. As well, Washington is just so hard to stack. Like, their offense is so spread out, and it's not great to begin with. Peterson's a nice price at 4,800. You're probably not going to get him at very much ownership. But the problem is Chris Thompson's back as well, and I would expect him to probably get a little bit more work. So fade for me, but I could see a path to getting there if the ownership was really low this week.
I feel like anytime we see a picture of Sanchez, he's either on his butt or about to be.
Yeah, well, that seems to be fitting for his career. Butt fumble, that whole thing.
All right, Cam Newton tossed 4 picks last week against the Bucs. Was replaced at the end of the game on a Hail Mary attempt. He's been dealing with a shoulder injury since having that surgery. Well, I mean, maybe not to that degree. He had about a year ago. Didn't rule out another one this offseason as well, which obviously for him kind of sucks. Now, he's likely going to start against the Browns, but how does this news make you feel about potentially rostering him, Julian?
Yeah, I would still be fine rostering Cam. I don't think he necessarily has to be your quarterback. I think Jameis Winston against the Saints. You've got Matt Ryan and Aaron Rodgers going head-to-head at Lambeau. Deshaun Watson's in a good spot. Lamar Jackson is still cheap going up against Kansas City. So there's a lot of QB options that I like this week, but Cam Newton is right there with them because he's been so consistent this season. He's top 20 DraftKings points in 9 of his 12 games. His worst game has been 15 DraftKings points. He provides you with that rushing floor, and the Browns defense isn't something that should scare you away. So I think that Cam Newton, with the receivers he has, with his legs, is a fine play yet again on this slate.
Reed guy averages about 22 fantasy points. You like him?
No, not at all. I mean, Julian just mentioned off the entire slate, so we can't go with anyone much more than that. But look, I mean, Phillip Rivers is $200 more. He's going up against one of the worst defenses in Cincinnati. Cam threw 4 picks against backup secondary in Tampa Bay, which bolsters one of the worst pass defenses. Now he goes up against Cleveland, who's a much better pass defense. No way. I mean, 6,000. If he was maybe at 5'7", 5'8", you might want to, because Cam, like Julian mentioned, does have that floor and rushing ability. But against Cleveland, no way on the road, absolutely not. There's way better value that you can go with. Now, the following weeks, he does have a nicer schedule, but not this week, not for me.
Nolan, yay or nay?
We got 1 yes, 1 no. I'm kind of right in the middle, but I'm actually a little bit more with Reed on this one. Cleveland doesn't give up a lot of rushing yards to quarterbacks normally. Cam's the 5th highest priced quarterback on the slate, and I think there's better value. He's probably a pretty safe play. He's probably going to get you your 20 points. And he makes for a nice stack with some of these low-priced receivers like Curtis Samuel and Ian Thomas, who may end up being the kind of cheap tight end play this week. But for me, it's more of a fade than anything, unless the ownership is really low.
All right, well, we'll stay with quarterbacks here. The NFL Network is reporting that Sam Darnold will be under center for the Jets this weekend. Does that make the Bills' defense, though, more attractive? Kind of go the other way, Nolan, because, well, Darnold does have the affinity for the occasional pick here and there.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think that both these defenses are actually playable. Buffalo top 10 in adjusted sack rate, but they're also 5th worst in sacks allowed. And it's not like Josh Allen's been really any better than Darnold. He's actually had about an equal interception rate. Darnold has 14 interceptions in 289 attempts, and Allen has 7 on 191. So obviously the Buffalo defense is a lot better than the Jets, but I like pivoting off that, going to the Jets defense for an $800 savings and maybe just getting a slight downgrade on that, but you still have a pretty high turnover potential.
All right, an interesting move there. Reed, how do we feel about Darnold back in here? Do we like the Jets? Do we like the Bills defense? Where are we going?
Yeah, the Bills are a little more expensive for me. I never like paying up at defense. I know I just talked about AP, that, you know, he's a guy that I like to trust, but Julian is right. The Giants defense, look, they've had a couple of interceptions over the last few games, return for touchdowns. They're getting to the quarterback a little bit more than they were at the beginning of the season. And if we feel like, you know, logic says that Sanchez and these guys aren't going to do well, I think at that price tag in the mid-2s for the Giants is a complete steal. So they'd be my favorite defense. It's too expensive for Buffalo. If they were a little bit cheaper, then yeah, but too expensive for me. All
right, Julian, how do we feel about Darnold?
Yeah, I like the Buffalo defense. I don't feel good about Darnold in this spot, but I'm with the guys here in terms of paying up on defense. I think if you have the room to roster Buffalo or New York's defense in this game, that's fine. If you want to use it to tie to a running back or use it to tie to Josh Allen, who's actually been the Bills' best rusher in the last 2 games, I think you can do that and try and go for a game script type tournament team. But as I've been saying all along, I can't get away from a $2,500 Giants defense that scored 11 and 17 DK points in two of its last 3 games, going up against Mark Sanchez. I don't care if he has a week to prepare for it. We've seen Mark Sanchez make his stops all across the NFL. It's gone the same way every time, so I just can't avoid the value of taking the Giants defense, whether it's in cash or tournaments this week.
All right, guys, 2 segments down, 1 more to go with you, so stick around. We'll do some NFL price check coming up in a little bit. For now, we are halfway home, so stay with us here on The Sweat. Coming up next, we'll hit the ice with our NHL expert, Sean Newsham. Before that, though, another look at Thursday Night Football. Exhilarating matchup. Jags and Titans.
Hey, it's Brendan Glasheen in with your DraftKings Fantasy Flash. Jags-Titans and AFC South duel on Thursday Night Football. Leonard Fournette, the most expensive player for DK's Showdown captain contest. $18,000 as your captain, $12K as a flex. Not only are his legs well rested, but so are his fists. Fournette rejoins the Jags after serving a 1-game suspension for his actions in the team's Bills brawl, but seriously, his week off gives boost to his hamstrings. I mean, Fournette scored 5 touchdowns in 3 games since being back from injury. So yeah, pay up for Fournette, because how can you feel confident or great about Cody Kessler against a solid Titans pass defense, which has allowed just 221 yards per game through the air? That's 5th least in the league, and Tennessee has also let up just 16 passing touchdowns this season. Fournette's the only Jaguar you can really trust in Nashville this evening.
All right, thanks, Glash. Pretty solid slate in the NHL tonight. You know, should be pretty fun. And to break it all down with our Tears of Joy segment, we welcome in DK Live hockey expert Sean Newsham. Hello, Sean.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
All right, Sean, good to see you again. Tier 1, we've got some superstars to choose from, pal. Austin Matthews, Nathan McKinnon, Cam Atkinson, Sidney Crosby, household names. So who out of this tier do you like?
For me, I'm going to look right at the top with Austin Matthews. Since returning from injury, he has 5 goals and 2 assists in his last 3 games. So he's been in just fantastic form. Had an absolute dazzling goal to beat my Buffalo Sabres the other night in overtime, unfortunately. But you get him in a matchup against Detroit, where you find Toronto to be a -300 favorite, which is just massive, and their team total is over 4 at 4.2. So for me, I think Austin Matthews is the clear top choice in tier number 1 tonight.
All right, small pool in tier 2. Alex Ovechkin, Johnny Gaudreau, to name a couple. Who do we like in this one?
Yeah, this tier is a little bit more difficult. It seems to be it has players a little bit more evenly balanced, but for me, I'm going to go with Alexander Ovechkin, the elite goal scorer that we know and love from the motherland of Russia. Patrick Hornquist is a great option in this one as well, but Arizona has been just a massive sieve, and they've been giving up tons of high danger opportunities recently. So with those factors, I like to go with Alexander Ovechkin in tier number 2 tonight.
All right, how about tier 3? It's not lacking any big names with Tavares, Pasternak, Kucherov. They're all headlining this group. A little bit more difficult choice here, Sean, or you got your guy pretty well picked out?
Yeah, I think here you have to go back to the Toronto game. Tonight, in general, if you can get as much of Toronto as possible, I think it's a great situation. Detroit's one of the worst teams in league, and Toronto is a -300 favorite. So it really just ends up becoming a pick your poison with Toronto. And in the tiers, there gives you the opportunity to get quite a few of them. In the normal salary games, you might not have those opportunities, but in Tiers of Joy, you have opportunities to take them in multiple tiers, and all of them are in great spots. Tavares is one of the top-ranked centers on the entire slate, and despite not getting massive stats for faceoffs, he does rack up faceoffs won as well, which helps to boost his floor a little bit. But the matchup is just so good that I think you just want to stack as many Toronto skaters as you can tonight.
All right, well, it's only an hour show now, so we don't have time to hit every single tier. But is there someone in tiers 4 through 8 that catch your eye and they're, qualified as a must-play, Sean?
So for me, I think that Roman Josi is probably the strongest play in tier number 6. He has a very strong matchup, and over the last 10 games, Josi has averaged almost 6 peripheral points per game, which is block shots plus shots on goal. With a 6 shot on goal plus block shots floor, you have a very solid stat line from Josi before you even look at any sorts of goals or assists from him. So I think Roman Josi is a great play in tier number 6.
All right, Sean, we appreciate it. How about a lock for tonight? Slate-approved lock.
Tonight, my slate-approved lock is going to be Shea Weber. He just has recently returned from injury. In 4 games, his minutes have been fantastic. He has a couple goals and an assist in those games as well. And his matchup for tonight is just absolutely fantastic. He gets to play against a team that gives up massive high danger chances. And with the minutes at 25-26 per game against an Ottawa team that has given up the most goals on the entire year from any team, I think that Shea Weber is the best option tonight on any slate. So for me, Shea Weber's a lock.
All right, good stuff, Sean. Always love the insight, my man. Back to the NFL conversation we go. But first, Brendan Glasheen caught up with our own Adam Levitan for, well, you know it, at Levitan's Leverage.
It's week 14 in the NFL. This is Levitan's Leverage. I'm Brendan Glasheen with Adam Levitan. Check out Leverage on the DK Playbook if you haven't already. Let's begin with DeAndre Hopkins. He went off for 35.9 DK points, a season best against the Colts back in week 4. D-Hop is 7,800 and draws Indy at home this time around with an even more confident quarterback in Deshaun Watson. So, Levy, this is a slam dunk pick?
Yeah, I think if you look at the recent box scores for DeAndre Hopkins, you would think that he's been struggling, but really the Deshaun Watson and Texans have not needed the pass game hardly at all, under 25 attempts per game in their last 7 because they haven't been tested by opposing offenses. And then on the other side, the Colts pass defense looks really good over the last month or so because they haven't faced any competent passing offenses. So now I think we get a spot where both teams will be forced into more plays, both teams will be forced to be more aggressive, and that certainly suits DeAndre Hopkins in a very good one-on-one matchup with the Colts corners.
Chris Godwin is 4,900 this week against the Saints. Second-year wideout logged his second 100-yard receiving game of the season last week against the Panthers. He thrived in Deshaun Jackson's absence, but even with Adam Humphries emerging as of late, why is Godwin your guy here?
Yeah, well, first of all, the Bucs are so throw heavy, and the way that the Saints play defense is they stop the run and they force teams to go to the air. And then we just have really unique talent for Chris Godwin. Thought he was the most likely candidate in the 2017 wide receiver draft class to emerge as a fantasy asset, and he's proved that. I mean, really good at the yards per route run metrics. So Chris Godwin, a talented guy in a pass-heavy offense, playing every snap with Deshaun Jackson out in a really good matchup against the Saints, I think is a slam dunk.
One more, Jalen Samuels, the running back. He's going to start for the Steelers at the Raiders since James Conner has been ruled out for this one. Raiders' run defense stinks, so there should be opportunities for Samuels at just 3,700 to flourish, right?
Yeah, and I think the key here is not that Jalen Samuels is going to run the ball really well or run the ball a lot. It's that he's so good in the pass game. If you guys remember Marcel Reese, he kind of reminds of that, a guy who can do it all, play tight end, a lot in college. So I think Jalen Samuels may only get 8 or 10 carries, which is fine. But much like the Tariq Cohen types of the world, he could also get 5, 6, 7, 8 targets and really do damage that way. And when you're in a full PPR format like DraftKings, you can rack up a lot of points when you're getting 8 carries plus 8 targets. So I think Jalen Samuels at that price makes a lot of sense.
Check out Levitan's leverage on the DK playbook. Thanks, Levy.
All right, good luck.
All right, thanks, Brendan. Thanks,
Boy, that
Levy.
guy's been on a lot tonight.
I know, seriously. It's
Unbelievable.
crazy. It's almost as much as you. It's crazy. All right, guys, let's take a closer
talking
look.
more, I think.
Let's take a closer look at the price points in Week 14 of the NFL slate with NFL Price Check, DK Live's Reed Fowler, Julian Edlow, and Nolan Kelly of Awesemo.com. Welcome back, guys. You guys didn't fight each other or anything? All right, that's good. Kicking things off with Indy's Andrew Luck. He had at least 20 DK points in 8 straight games before last week. 10 points, 10.5 points. Not particularly
Luck, no.
that great. He's 5,900 this week, though, against the Texans. Reed, is that a fair price?
Yeah, it's absolutely a fair price. I think he should be priced higher. He's one of my favorite quarterbacks on this slate. Look, last time he faced Houston, he threw for 62 times for almost 500 yards. I mean, this was his highest performance so far this season. I think it has a lot. This game looks a lot like it should from that last one. And look, both of these defenses are elite when it comes to the run. They aren't so much against the pass. I think if you look at Houston's pass defense, they haven't really faced a caliber quarterback like Andrew Luck. And so at this price tag, I love it. I'm going to be smashing a lot of Andrew Luck in my lineups this Sunday.
All right, Julian, you feel the same way? Maybe an overreaction to last week's performance? He's an underpriced player now?
Yeah, I agree there. Look, he had the 10 DraftKings points last week, but like Reed just mentioned, he had almost 40 DraftKings points in this matchup earlier in the season against Houston. And then since that game, he didn't score fewer than 22 DraftKings points in any game until the Jacksonville game this past Sunday. So Luck was on a really consistent stretch of strong games, with the strongest coming in this exact matchup. So I don't expect 40 DraftKings points again, but I do expect him to top that 22 mark that he topped in every game since until the Jacksonville game.
All right, fair enough. Nolan, outlier last week. You like him this one?
Yeah, I mean, I think both you guys hit on all the right points there. The only concern I have, or not concern, I guess, is just that like quarterback is so deep. There are like 5, 7, 8 guys in this price range. They're all priced similarly, and they're all viable plays this week. So that's the only reason I would go off Luck, is just because I think there are a number of good plays. But Indy number 1 in offensive pace. We all know Houston's top 10 defensive pace. So do not hit it at all. I think it's a fair price.
All right, so it sounds
Sorry to interrupt. To Nolan's point, you kind of like that, right? It's like that ownership is going to be spread across because there's a ton of value. Luck in this spot really should be double-digit owned. If we get him at 8 to 10% in this matchup, you like that there's value elsewhere because that ownership won't be honed in on one guy like Luck. And that price tag is just so nice.
So, Reed, aren't you kind of, I mean, maybe I'm just picking nits here, pal, but aren't you kind of doubling down saying that really the price is a little bit low? I mean, it's price check after all.
No, that's what I said. I think it should be higher because of this matchup. And so at this price tag, absolutely. Look, like anywhere you go, I mean, Russell Wilson is right at that. I don't think he's going to garner a lot of ownership. Aaron Rodgers is right there. Everyone thinks this guy's going to have a magical game. He's going to throw as much as Luck did in this matchup, like Julian said, at 60-plus times. And so with that being said, Luck is in a prime spot, especially ownership-wise if you're playing in GPPs.
I'm heavily medicated, but I thought I heard fair price.
Okay.
All right, Zeke, bit pricey, though, this week. 8,600 guys to roster him. So that said, could be worth it. Maybe. Julian, you can think about this first. He has 4 straight games with at least 25 DK points. Do we think he will return value this week?
And one of those games was the 39.7 DraftKings points against the Eagles on that Sunday Night Football game. So, look, home favorite for the Dallas Cowboys here. Zeke's rolling. Their offense has added another dimension with Amari Cooper. Ezekiel Elliott's been playing better since they added a real passing game, so the teams can't stack the box against him. So 86 or 8,900, whatever he is, I think he's underpriced or well priced for this slate. There's going to be a lot of value running backs. You've got Jalen Samuels, you've got the 49ers situation, you've got Justin Jackson that could potentially get that start for the Chargers. So a lot of people are going to be looking at value at running back, and that easily opens the salary to fit Ezekiel Elliott in a really good spot in your lineup. So the price necessarily doesn't even matter because there's so much running back value on this slate. I think that under 9,000, this is fine to roster him against the Eagles here.
Mr. Fowler, do you like Zeke at 8,600?
I do. I really like Zeke at this price tag, and Julie mentioned it against this Eagles defense that hasn't played up to snuff or what we expected or what we saw from last year. This guy is kind of like Saquon, or Saquon is kind of like Zeke, where these guys are matchup proof even against good defenses. He's averaging 20 attempts, and what we really like about Zeke now is that he has that higher ceiling because he's getting targets, because he's getting receptions out of that backfield, about 5 to 6, which is really nice, which is what he wasn't getting previously last season. So yeah, I love this price at 8,600. Look, Kamara's right there too at 81. So if you want to save and pivot off of that guy, Kamara's in a plus matchup against Tampa Bay, but Zeke at 86 is a great price.
Nolan, no brainer?
No brainer for me. I think he's probably my favorite player running back this week as well. Look at his targets the past 6 weeks: 6, 6, 7, 8, 6, 6 in the passing game. So he's got that floor. He's in a great matchup. He's at home. He's a favorite. It's going to be really interesting to see how running backs break down this week, because obviously you've got the 2 chalk running backs down low, and then you've got 5 or 6 guys up top that are all viable, all in good spots. We have them graded out really well. So we will it kind of depends. Again, I sound like a broken record. It's going to depend on ownership, but I also think, like, getting 2 of these guys in is going to be key as well, and then finding that right value play for your flex spot as well.
Reed, you mentioned that Saints-Bucks game earlier. Mike Evans, he went wild against the Saints back in week 1, and that was sprinkled with a little Fitz magic there, though. Yeah. But it's Jameis Winston now. He's the quarterback for the Bucks. So are we expecting production that warrants playing him at 7,500 here?
I never like playing Mike Evans. He's always at this price. Look, if he was under 7K, I think he'd be an obvious option, but rarely do we see a guy with his talent, especially with the games that he's able to put up. And there's no quantifiable metric to this, but are the Saints going to come out on that defense, who got embarrassed by the Bucks week 1, to come out and shut this guy down? I just don't like playing him, especially when Jameis is back. Honestly, I'd rather play Adam Humphries. I'd be much more comfortable saving close to $2,000 to $3,000 and play Humphries at 4,900, who's seeing, like Nolan mentioned, with Zeke seeing target. Look, this guy has seen a ton of targets over the last 4 or 5 weeks. And so Adam Humphries provides that savings where if you wanted to pay up elsewhere for these running backs, I just much rather go there. There's a ton of value, especially a wide receiver in this slate. I just never trust Mike Evans because he's so up and down.
Nolan, you find it kind of driving in that same lane there, not really feeling Mike Evans will go elsewhere in this one?
Yeah, so what I think he is this week is a contrarian play, kind of a pivot off of Godwin and Humphries, especially since we saw, I think the Millie Maker winning lineup last week was Winston paired with those 2. So my take on it is that if you want to go with the Tampa stack, you're going to get Evans far less owned than those other 2. He's obviously a worse value, $3,000 more or $2,500 more than one of them, but I don't hate it as a play, just given the fact that not a lot of people are going to go there.
All right, Julian, how do you feel about him? Obviously, Mike Evans, this game looks like it's going to be a shootout, so he is a stud. How do we feel?
Yeah, I'm kind of split between these guys here. I don't love Mike Evans on this slate. I think the Saints defense is obviously much improved since the last time these 2 teams saw each other. And I like what Nolan said. He's going to be a contrarian play. I think stacking him with Jameis Winston in something like the Millie Maker or a large GPP field like that makes a ton of sense. But I was going to say, rather than the pivot playoff guys like Humphries and Godwin, who I think are going to be really good, really popular plays as well, he's a pivot playoff Keenan Allen, who's right below him at 7,400, who should be really popular. He had a great game against the Steelers. Now he's at home facing a Cincinnati Bengals defense that's going to have a really tough time with him. So Keenan Allen at 7,400 should be popular. You've got DeAndre Hopkins right above him at 7,800. The last time he faced the Indianapolis Colts, he scored 35 DraftKings points. So there's really attractive plays both below and on top of Evans. So I think you'll get really low ownership on him if you want to play in a tournament. But like everybody else, I like DeAndre Hopkins and Keenan Allen a lot more than Mike Evans if I'm being forced to pick one.
Guys, let's talk about Travis Kelce. He's been a stud all year. Highest priced tight end this week, $6,700. You like that price against the Ravens? Julian, let's stay with you.
I do like that price against the Ravens. If there's one place that you can attack them through the air, it's been tight end this season. They're weakest there against running backs, receivers, all the skill positions. They've allowed the most production to tight end. I just think of it this way. If Travis Kelce was putting up these numbers he's been putting up as a wide receiver, would he be priced more than $6,700? And my answer is absolutely. He had 42.8 DraftKings points last week against Oakland. The game before that, 2 weeks ago, he had 31.7 DraftKings points. against the Rams. 2 games before that, 28.9 DraftKings points at the Cleveland Browns. If Travis Kelce were a wide receiver like Tyreek Hill, he would be priced maybe in the $8,000 range. So I think it's a great value here on tight end. I like the other expensive plays near him. I think Zach Ertz has been really consistent for the Eagles. Rob Gronkowski is $4,800. That is the cheapest he has ever been on DraftKings. That makes him a very interesting tight end play, at least. But in terms of just the flat-out salary on Kelce, $6,700 is way too cheap.
Reed, what do you think of my good friend Travis Kelce here?
Yeah, Julie just mentions every single person on this slate, so me and Nolan have nothing else.
Those are the guys I want to talk about. I talked about 3 tight ends. Those are the 3 I wanted to name.
There are 3 really good values. Like Gronk at 4,800 is amazing. I don't care if you're going to be Gronk at that's the lowest.
It's the cheapest he's ever been on DraftKings ever. Did you know that? I gave you a fact that you didn't know.
I think I've heard that a couple times now.
Let me see who the good play is. Yeah, of course it's going to be Gronk at 4,800. He's the best value. I know Kelce is treated as or he's designated as tight end, but like you mentioned, he's a wide receiver. And so if you look at this matchup against the Ravens, I don't think you need to have to pay up a tight end. Like Vance McDonald at 3,500 against the team that Kelce faced last week in Oakland is the worst against tight ends. They're 32nd in DVOA against tight ends. They give up the second most by like 0.2 points to tight ends. So essentially number 1. I'd much rather save value. Kelce, look, there's so many options in that Kansas City team. You might not get that. We saw what happened with Tyreek Hill last matchup. It might be a Tyreek Hill game. I know the Ravens are better against receivers, defending receivers and tight ends. But yeah, Gronk at 4,800, that's a beautiful price for him. Doesn't matter what he's done or what he has done in the past. Just play Gronk.
Curly, you have anything to add to Mo and Larry here?
They forgot my name for a second. That was awesome. Yeah, I'm actually not on Gronk too much. I mean, it's a good value, but also, like, I'll take the guy who hasn't had more than 56 yards since, like, week 5. I don't need to play that guy too much. Kelce is a great value, or not a great value, but he's just the most reliable play on the board. Ertz has a little bit of a tougher matchup. Easier to attack Baltimore through the middle of the field. They're 16th in DVOA against tight ends and 1st against wide receivers. And I also think there's just not really a lot of value tight ends like low down, like maybe Ian Thomas gets there. So generally, I just like to pay up for Kelce and just not think too much about it.
Guys, thank you. I like the fire at the end there. I like a little back and forth.
I wouldn't want them to think I'd forget their names ever. Our stooges here.
He's heavily medicated. Of course, he forgot our names.
Yeah, he's in his Jordan flu game tonight. He's going for it. All right, guys, speaking of Jordan, then we'll wrap things up with NBA talk in just a second. But first, Pat Mayo has his Buffalo Wild Wings hot picks.
Pat Mayo here with your Thursday night hot picks for the Week 14 opener. Jags-Titans, presented by Buffalo Wild Wings. Well, the fantasy points weren't there last Thursday. It was a pretty good game, enjoyable to watch. This week, there probably won't be many points either. Early projections have it around 38 as a game total. But I have my doubts it'll be quite as enjoyable. We saw this game already this season. It was 9-6. Not so much because the defenses were great. They were okay. But the offenses were inept. From the Jags side of the ball, it's tough to trust any piece of the offense to just lean on the guy guaranteed to touch the ball the most, Leonard Fournette. Fresh for 1-game suspension. Pencil him into like 20-plus touches and all the goal line work. In this game, that makes him your captain. Other than Leo, Jags D and the kicker are probably your best bets on that side of the ball unless you want to play wide receiver roulette. For the Titans, winners of 3 straight against the Jags and 5 of their last 6, the defense might be the best option. They got to Josh McCown twice in Week 13, dropped Deshaun Watson 4 times the previous week, while Cody Kessler was sacked 3 times by the Colts in their 6-0 win on Sunday. I suppose Marcus Mariota is the superior play because of the upside he possesses. But this is one of those weeks where I think you can do the dearth of points stack of double kicker, double defense, Mariota Fournette lineups, or some variation of that. That could be the move. Those are the Thursday night hot picks for Jags-Titans. I'm Pat Mayo.
Final few moments here on The Sweat. We're letting our NBA experts get the final word here. Alex Barutha of RotoWire, Chris Baggs of Awesemo.com. Boys, welcome back.
Hey guys, good. Long time no see.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. Hope you got some rest. Good to see you. We've got some Chase Fade game spreads for you tonight. We're going to kick it off with Trailblazers being huge favorites over the Suns. So Chase or Fade, Blazers cover the 13.5-point spread over Phoenix, Alex.
Phoenix has been a mess since their two of their three best offensive players have gone down. Devin Booker, TJ Warren not available. The team can barely even feed DeAndre Ayton in the post, who's really their only consistent offensive option left. And so even with McCollum out for the Trailblazers, I still think they can cover this.
What do you say, Spags?
I mean, this total's coming down a little, so I think that even makes the Blazers more appealing. So I'll chase the Blazers cover here. Lillard's going to have the ball in his hands. I think we might see a real outlier Lillard game today just because of the extra usage. I would have liked the Suns. I think if McCollum were in, I think they need to get dressed down pretty hard by their coach, but it's going to be a lot of firepower coming from Lillard tonight, I think, and they're going to run away with it at some point.
If they can cover, who's a stud in this game?
Ooh, Josh Jackson would be my guy.
Yeah. Actually, I think I'll go Trevor Ariza.
Okay, takes us back to the Ariza versus Tatum debate.
Yeah, I like it.
Save a little bit of money, go with a lower price forward, maybe get some points.
Hey, that's how that works here. All right. Utah is 2-point favorites when they host the Rockets tonight. Chase fade, they'll cover that, Spags.
I'll actually fade this one. I was kind of leaning Chase before, but I talked myself into it with the James Harden take I had before. That's how you know you're really convincing, is when you convince yourself of different points. So I'll go with the Rockets. You know, it's a national TV game. I think Donovan Mitchell is going to gun because he is a guy who does that. And I think he might gun them out of this game as much as he might gun them into it. So I'll take the Rockets.
All right, Alex?
Yeah, I had trouble with this one too. This is a tough line. I'll chase it though. I mean, the Rockets have been scraping together wins, which is kind of just weird to say in general, but they've been offensive rebounding and getting to the free throw line. But on the other hand, the Jazz allow a very low free throw rate and defensive rebound really well. So I think the Rockets may struggle there if their shooting is as bad as it has been, and I guess if their struggles continue. So I think the Jazz have a good opportunity in this game, but I agree that Donovan Mitchell will be gunning, and I'm just going to bank on him keeping the Jazz afloat.
Spags, you know, we're always trying to boost viewership, obviously, appeal to a lot of different demographics. Just wondering, did your dog get bored of the show, or what happened there?
I think there was some crotch licking that had to be done in a different part of the apartment. And there was also some crop dusting walking by at some point. So they're trying to help as best they can in their own ways.
Oh, I appreciate that, and also send my sympathies to you at this very same time. Last up, we got the Celtics and Knicks at the TD Garden. So that's the Boston Garden, not, of course, Madison Square. Last time New York was in Boston, they beat the Celtics by 8.
Yeah, not great.
No, it was not great.
Not
a couple
fun.
weeks ago, too. So Kyrie Irving and company, 13-point favorites. That's pretty massive when you consider the fact that last time around didn't go so well, but by the same token, Boston playing well, and the Knicks generally, as a rule, suck. So chase or fade, they cover. Alex?
It's boring, but I'll chase this. I mean, we saw Gordon Hayward have the best game of his season last time out, and if that continues, and I think he'll have another strong night tonight. The whole team has been just coming together lately. He's kind of the final piece of that, and I think this is a great opportunity for them to just blow this team out of the water, blow the Knicks out of the water. And yeah, the Knicks David Fizdale just likes to test out different lineups, put guys in the lineup, take them out for seemingly no reason. There's just so much variability there. A team so consistent that's on the rise like the Celtics. I will chase this.
What do you say, Chris?
I mean, there's no Trey Burke to bail the Knicks out this time. He's out.
29 points
I like the
last
second unit guys. I think they're strong. Dotson does a good job. I think Kevin Knox has some potential, but the Celtics have too many bodies tonight. I think it's a home game. Again, a national TV game. You want to see them perform well and show well when they've had kind of an up and down year. So yeah, I think I would go with the Celtics and chase that point total.
Quick here, Spags. We got to let you guys go in a second here before we all get out of here. But Celtics have won 4 out of their last 5. They were very up and down, 500 basically for a while. Have they put it together at this point? Have they figured it out?
I think they're going to figure it out less as you get all these guys back in the lineup, because a player who's not getting minutes is not a happy player. I do think they need to kind of bundle a couple guys together for a trade, but we're seeing their depth now. I think the depth is a positive, but I like a consolidation of power. That's why I'm on Lillard's boat tonight. And I think the Celtics just have too many dudes who can do things, and people get lost in the flow when you have that.
Jaylen Brown being one of those dudes, Alex, coming off the bench. Can't imagine he's thrilled about it, but understands his role, and he also hasn't played in a few games. He's actually have not lost with him out of the lineup, but coming back, what kind of role do you think he plays?
I think he'll still get 20, 25 minutes a night. If Gordon Hayward continues to play the way that he did the other night, it's just hard to find the minutes for someone like Jaylen Brown kind of on the wing. So I wouldn't be surprised if we kind of saw Jaylen Brown go like 20 to 25 minutes from here on out. And yeah, a trade may be incoming because they just have so much talent at this point, too much talent, arguably.
30 points for Hayward last time out off the bench.
Yeah,
39 and 8, in fact.
Pretty good.
Yeah,
I'd say.
pretty good.
All right, guys, that'll do it for this edition of The Sweat. Big thanks to all of our experts, producers in the back, and of course, you for tuning in and you for sticking it out as a stick there. You know, it's good
My
stuff.
pleasure.
We'll be back here same time, same place tomorrow, 6 p.m. Eastern. For Adam Kaufman and everybody else here at DraftKings, I'm Tyler Sullivan. We'll catch you on the flippity flop.